Steelers Nation, what is going on? Thank you guys so very much for joining us on yet another edition of the Steelers Culture Podcast, where we break down Pittsburgh Steelers football, as this episode is powered by our great friends over at BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And Steelers Nation, we have another wide receiver on the trade block for the 2025 offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This seems to be the new thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. When a wide receiver is on the trade block, there is speculation of, oh my God, will the Steelers make a move? Will they look to acquire this said person? And the guy that we are talking about today is Rams legend Cooper Kupp.
Former Super Bowl MVP Cooper Kupp. It's interesting, man. It wasn't long ago. He had probably one of the best seasons we've ever seen from a wide receiver, at least from my own witnessing. But in NFL history, that guy was on a tear that year. But ever since then, he hasn't been the same guy. He's been injury prone. His contract hasn't really met up with the production. He hasn't been able to stay healthy, and he hasn't come close to that 2021 Cooper Kupp. But the Rams are intending to trade him. That doesn't mean they will. Ultimately, they just might have to cut him. But you can clearly tell that this is a cap dump for the Rams, and they're going to try to trade him ideally to a contender. Keep that in mind. And they are trying to move on from Cooper Kupp. They will be moving on from Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp has seen his last days as a Los Angeles Ram. Where will he line up? Where will he end up? Maybe on the free agency market. Maybe he's traded somewhere else. Maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are always going to be in line. They're going to be a heavy favorite for any receiver that's within the trade talks. Whether that's Cooper Kupp, or that's whatever receiver you guys want to name, or whether receiver that's going to be in line for said trade talks. The Steelers are always going to be linked to that.
They're always going to have their hand in the cookie jar. They're always going to be a part of that category because it is obviously a very serious need for the Steelers currently.
And the reason we're talking about Cooper Kupp today, the reason why we're actually making this a discussion is because the Steelers last year, according to Jay Glazer, he mentioned this right before the trade deadline last season, that the Steelers were calling any and everyone, even the Rams, for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I think the term he actually used, or somebody used, that the Steelers were scorching the earth for a wide receiver. That's how bad that they tried to get a wide receiver.
Yeah, he said they've been calling around. They even called around like a month ago for the Rams, trying to get a guy like Cooper Kupp. He mentioned that right before the trade deadline, when the Steelers ultimately had to trade for Mike Evans, or Mike Williams. Mike Williams.
Only we can dream.
Only to never use him. So there is previous talks there between Khan and the Rams front office. Maybe those will be sparked up again.
So it's something to keep in the back of your mind, Steelers Nation.
It's the offseason, officially, or not officially, but officially, and trade talks and signings and moves and all speculation is just now starting. Everything is going to intensify as the legal tampering period appears, as we get closer to free agency, as we get closer to the new league year starting next month in March. So this is just the beginning. And we're going to talk about Cooper Kupp today. But first, thank you guys for joining us on another edition of the Steelers Culture Podcast. We would greatly appreciate if you hit that like, hit that subscribe if you haven't already. We're also on Spotify. If you guys want to listen to the audio version of this podcast, we are on Spotify. And huge shout out to the sponsor of this video. Huge shout out to BetUS Sportsbook and Casino for sponsoring with us again for the month of February. As we take a look, it's funny, they already have the odds for Cooper Kupp's next team. Yes, they have odds. This is how quick they are. They have odds for Cooper Kupp's next team, if not the Rams. Now, this could be related to trade. This could be related to him being released and then signing with a new team. But as you guys see on that list right there, the Steelers are indeed the top team with plus 300 to 1 odds. They are the top team next to the Chargers, the Cowboys, the Patriots, the Commanders, the Broncos, the Bengals, the Bills, the Ravens, the Texans, the Packers, the Lions, and onward and below. The Steelers are the top dog, as you would expect, because, again, the Steelers are always going to be linked to whoever is within the wide receiver realm of being on the move from somewhere. Plus 300 to 1 odds. If you guys want to place that, if you guys are confident that maybe Cooper Kupp becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler and does end up in the Steel City, feel free to do so. Or if you don't think he becomes a Steeler and you think he becomes maybe a Charger, which makes a lot of sense, maybe a Cowboy, maybe a Patriot. The Patriots are doing a lot of changes. Maybe the Commanders. They could use an extra receiver.
That would actually be filthy. With Jaden Daniels?
The Broncos, maybe. Or, and this is my personal prediction, I think he is going to be a Buffalo Bill because it's out of conference. It is for a contender. And Josh Allen and Cooper Kupp, if he stays healthy, I mean, you saw what Josh Allen was able to do with his receivers. Now imagine a healthy Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Amari Cooper is set to hit the free agency market, and I don't know if they retain Cooper, so why not replace Cooper with Kupp?
They could do that.
See what I did there?
Yes, I did.
Aha.
I'm going to place 10 on the Bills. If you guys want to do anything else for any other team, feel free to do so. BetUS has that covered. I'm going to place this. If you guys want to tail this or do any other team, feel free to do so at betus.com. When going to betus.com, please use their 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% on your next 2 deposits when you use that very promo code YouTube150 when signing up at betus.com today. And if you guys are into casinos, BetUS has a casino. So if you're into slots or live casino deals, BetUS has a special offer for you as well when you sign up. You can receive a 200% sign-up casino bonus up to $5,000 and a 250% crypto sign-up bonus up to $5,000 as well. So claim all these bonuses and all these perks from our great friends over at betus.com when signing up today. So huge shout out to BetUS for sponsoring with us. Again, just please gamble responsibly as we are in Super Bowl week and a former Super Bowl MVP is on the move. There will be trade talks. There will be teams calling. There probably have already been teams calling. Cooper Kupp made a Twitter post or an X post that mentioned that the team will be looking to trade him immediately.
Yep.
So this could be happening very quickly. Or it could last on the weeks like the Ayuk situation. I don't know.
It definitely will not last as long as the Ayuk situation.
No, because the clock's ticking for Cooper Kupp and his future in the Rams. Either the Rams are going to find a trade partner and they can get whatever they want out of him or what they desire, or he's going to be cut by the Rams and he will be a free agent and he can feel free to sign anywhere.
Yeah.
But obviously the Rams want to get something out of Cooper Kupp and they want to do him right since he is a legend for their franchise.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp actually mentioned that in his post that, that the team will be working with Kupp and his family to find the right place to continue competing for a championship. So although that Kupp, he also expressed that he does not agree with the decision of moving on because he firmly believed that he was going to begin and end his career with the Rams. So although that the Rams acknowledge that he is not happy with the situation, nor does he agree with the situation or the decision, they're still trying to do him right and his family right in getting Kupp to a location where he will be happy, or where he will compete for a championship. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, but a lot of respect to the Rams for doing that. That's really very generous of them for trying to honor Cooper Kupp in the right way. To the Steelers, let's be real, we're not contending for shit. We're not.
No.
Now, granted, that's not what other teams are thinking. Some other teams might not look at the Steelers the way that us fans look at the Steelers. They look at, they still have Mike Tomlin. He hasn't had a losing season ever. They're in the playoffs every year. They're contenders. We're not, but that's what other teams might think. So thus, the Steelers could be within realm of trading for a guy like Cooper Kupp. Now, in regards to the wide receiver position, obviously it's a huge need for the Steelers. I would even go as far as saying Omar Khan has completely butchered the wide receiver position because we don't have receivers outside of Pickens, and Pickens' future is up in the air. We don't know if he's going to get extended. There's trade rumors, whether you want to believe them or not. I don't know.
It's just a very rocky situation when it comes to the Steelers and George Pickens, and based off his behavior and basically, Tomlin just letting him do whatever he wants, essentially.
Yeah.
With that news coming out and whatnot, it's just, the Steelers don't really have a lot of credibility at the wide receiver outside of Pickens. But again, you mentioned his future's kind of in smoke. And Roman Wilson, though they drafted him in the 3rd round, he hasn't played a single snap.
And everyone in the front office has mentioned that they want to go aggressive. They want to go make a splash at wide receiver, whether that is in free agency, or that's via trade, or maybe even during the draft. I would hope both. Because we need all the bodies. We need all the pieces that we could really use at that position. Cooper Kupp. First of all, there's 2 things that are going to come into play when it comes to him potentially being traded. One of them is clearly his health. Ever since his unbelievable season in 2021, he's only played a combined total of 33 games in his last 3 seasons. 33 games, and he hasn't come close to any of the 2021 production.
Yeah, now 33 games in 3 years. It's not terrible, but it doesn't speak healthy.
No, he can't stay healthy. He's on the bottom half of his career, and you could arguably say he might be washed. I don't think he's completely washed. He's definitely injury prone, but he's still very dependable. He can still get in the end zone. He's someone you trust with the football. He's someone you trust to give targets to.
Yeah, and not to cut you off, but I would say when it comes to Cooper Kupp, there's 3 things that he's going to bring to the table for any team, not just the Steelers, any team that could acquire him. It's his character. The man is of high character. The guy is one of those receivers in the NFL that is just rare to have. He's not a diva. He doesn't cry about not getting the football or not, bumping his stats and whatnot. The guy's just going to go out there and do what he needs to do to help his team win.
He's someone that just shows up, goes to work, does what he has to do, does it at a great, impact.
Impact and rate.
And goes home and repeats.
Yeah.
It's a rarity for the wide receiver position in the NFL nowadays.
And it's something that the Steelers have not had in quite a long time.
No, we have not had a leader. We have not had a character like that. We haven't had that veteran in that room in a while.
So the Steelers are missing that. They could get that in Kupp. The second thing that he brings is his route running and his separation.
Yep.
Even at his age, he's 32 years old, and his injury history and him getting older, it doesn't really, that's a huge red flag. You know what I mean? But even at his age, I still find him to be one of the better route runners in the NFL.
Yeah.
He's just crisp. He knows how to get separation. He's just one of the most dominant at that. The Steelers do not have any of that on the team.
No.
0. At least from what we've seen.
Maybe Calvin.
From what we've seen.
Calvin Austin to an extent. I think Calvin's a good route runner. I think he's got some speed to him, obviously. I think he's a very dependable guy. But is he the number 2? I don't see him as a number 2. He's a very good 3. He's a very good slot guy. And Kupp would come in and be the 2 immediately. But the second thing that teams are going to worry about when acquiring or trying to trade for him is clearly his contract. This is why the Rams are getting rid of him. Because the contract does not meet the production. The contract does not meet what he is adding to the Rams right now. Puka Nacua is running away with that number 1 position and has the last 2 years. Puka Nacua, ever since bursting onto the scene, has taken pretty much everything that Cooper Kupp
Even
offered.
when Kupp was hurt, I mean, Puka has just basically carried the load big time.
Yeah.
He's proven that time and time again. So it's just goes to show, do the Rams need Kupp? No. That's been showcased because of what Puka has done.
Yes.
Just what his impact has brought to the table.
Now, any team that would acquire Cooper Kupp is dealing with a hefty contract. Now, obviously, there will have to be restructures. That's probably what's going to happen. But as we stand right now, his final 2 years of his contract has a cap hit in 2025 of almost $30 million, $29,780,000 to be exact. And in 2026, he has a cap hit of $27,330,000. That's hefty for someone that hasn't been able to play a full season, for someone that hasn't been able to put up crazy numbers. It's not worth that. This is exactly why the Rams are dumping him.
Unless, I will throw this out there, unless whatever team that acquires him can be able to renegotiate with the Rams about that contract. Maybe they could convince the Rams to take some of the chunk, potentially, or they could talk to Cooper Kupp and his agents and his associates about potentially moving that money, maybe making it to a signing bonus or putting some extra years on it. I have no idea.
Well, the Rams, let's say they trade him. If they trade him, they will suffer a $17.26 million dead cap hit. So they're already going to, they're not even worried about it. They're going to take it, and that's what they're going to have to worry about. But they will be honoring Cooper Kupp's $5 million fully guaranteed bonus come the 15th, I believe, this year. So they will be paying him $5 million guaranteed. So the remainder will have to be paid by whatever team trades for Kupp, unless there is a restructure, which I would anticipate there would be. That brings us to our next discussion. What can the Rams get out of Cooper Kupp? Obviously, nothing too crazy, nothing too high, nothing on the level of what they got maybe out of Goff. This is kind of similar to the Goff situation where they traded him. They swapped quarterbacks, and it worked out for both teams, but they swapped quarterbacks mainly because Goff was almost a cap dump. They paid him way too much, and they weren't willing to run with Goff for the rest of his contract, so thus they traded what they did, and they got Stafford out of it, and it all worked out in the end. Mm-hmm. They're kind of doing something similar with Kupp, except they're not going to get the same value. The most they might get in terms of trade capital is maybe a third. I don't think the Steelers should trade a third. I don't think any team should trade a third.
Yeah, I mean, listen, no team's going to trade away a first or a second for a 32-year-old, soon-to-be 32-year-old wide receiver with injury history and a huge cap hit. That's just not happening.
And probably in his last contract, maybe of his career.
Potentially.
We don't know that.
That's a huge possibility. A third is, of course, the highest. But even then, like that carries a bargain.
Because honestly, how much longer is Cooper Kupp going to be with said team? Could it be a restructure and then they cut him in 2026 maybe? I don't know. Could they keep him the next 2 years? It's a possibility. But I would say that probably what the Rams would most likely get and what they're probably going to have to take is anywhere from a day 3 pick or a handful of day 3 picks. Maybe not a handful, less than a handful.
Maybe a pick from this year and maybe an extra pick for next year. Maybe it's some sort of package that they may have to accept.
I can see it.
And receive.
I think that's very acceptable for the Rams. It just all depends on what team gives the most and where the Rams think that he can compete the greatest.
And wherever Kupp would be happy to go to and play with.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Kupp would have the final say. I'm not saying that he's that type of character. He's never really showcased that. What I'm saying is,
I don't think he has a no trade clause. Correct me if I'm wrong. So
oh, does he?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if it's final say. Even if it was, I mean, the Rams are going to do him right.
I could see Kupp maybe giving, putting a few teams in a hat, and then the Rams would just, of course, call those teams, or those teams could call him potentially, and the Rams are just going to do Kupp due diligence and do him right and moving him away.
I think overall they will, but I would say that the Steelers will be one of the teams I will be calling because they already did last year, a month before the trade deadline. They did call the Rams for a guy like Kupp, according to Jay Glazer. I would highly believe that the Steelers will be vying for Kupp again because they want to make a move. They want to make a splash for a wide receiver.
I mean, you just seen what happened throughout last offseason. Of course, the Ayuk situation, and they tried. And throughout that whole situation, I said that the money was never the issue.
No.
The cap, the money, the offer was never the issue when it came to Omar Khan, the Steelers, trying to obtain Ayuk or anybody of that matter.
It still isn't. And that goes into free agency.
Yeah. Now, the difference with that is Ayuk is, of course, 6 years younger than Cooper Kupp, and he didn't have a track record of injury history.
No.
Not at least not until, this upcoming season where he unfortunately suffered season-ending injury. But,
right.
He is older, Kupp is. He does have that load of him with the injuries and the cap hit. But when it comes to the cap hit, I don't think that's a serious concern. And considering that Omar Khan, he's made quite a history before he was promoted to GM of being a cap wizard. So if he has to move some money around him, he's no stranger to doing it. And he's done before time and time again.
And he most likely will. The thing is, with the fact that the Steelers need a wide receiver, I think they do want to make a splash. I think they understand. Last year, they put all their eggs in the Ayuk basket, and they failed. They were at the goal line, and hilariously, they fumbled. They didn't make the tush push. They threw it instead of running it.
They tossed it.
This just didn't work out.
Yeah.
They had it, but Ayuk went in there that day and said, you know what? I'm going to be a San Francisco 49er for the rest of, or at least for the next couple years. They know that they messed up the wide receiver position badly last year. And it was a massive reason why the offense lacked a lot. Pickens had a good year, and anyone else in the receiving room, they stepped up when they had to. They didn't have anyone of significance.
Austin stepped up. You look at the receivers that we had. Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin, guys like that. We acquired Mike Williams, hardly used him, though.
Yeah.
And I don't expect him coming back at all.
I don't either.
But, the guys that we had, Austin's the one that stepped up the most. Was he not as consistent as we'd like to see him? No, not exactly. I wouldn't say he was as consistent, but he's the guy that made the most plays when it came to the guys that, we gave the opportunity to, that we had, that we ran with.
I don't think with the offense you can say anyone was really consistent.
Fair enough. That's fair enough. But I mean, just having Van Jefferson in as the number 2 all season, a number 4 playing a number 2.
Yeah.
It was just never going to work out.
No.
I knew it from day one when he signed the contract. This ain't going to work out.
So for the second straight year, could the Steelers pick a former Los Angeles Ram to be the number 2?
This would be a better option.
This would be a much better option. But should they trade for Cooper Kupp? This is where we go into the next discussion. Should they trade for Cooper Kupp? How do you feel about it?
Honestly, I'm torn. Because I know the level of impact that he brings with his abilities on the field his separation, his character. All that is stuff that the Steelers desperately need at wide receiver. They need that. They have not had that in quite a long time. At a consistent rate at that, too, because when Cooper Kupp's on the field, he's still consistent. They need consistency on that field at the wide receiver position as well. The issue with me is, again, the age, the injury history. That is a huge red flag, in my opinion.
As they always say, your best ability is availability.
It is.
And the production hasn't been there for Cooper Kupp. And I would argue, I don't think the Steelers are a good fit for Cooper Kupp. They don't throw the ball. They are afraid to throw the ball.
No, they have always been a run-first mentality.
And they still will be with Arthur Smith and Mike Tomlin and everyone else commending that style.
That's going to continue to be the trend, unfortunately.
I don't know if Cooper Kupp is a right fit. I don't think he'll find success in Pittsburgh. I don't. I really don't.
My question is, would he want to come to Pittsburgh?
I don't know if it's to say.
Honestly, if I'm Cooper Kupp, I'm saying no. I would say no. I think there's better options out there. I mean, like, you're looking at the Detroit Lions. I mean, like, why wouldn't he not want to go back and reunite with his old quarterback?
Sure, but it's in conference. I don't know if the Rams might do that, but it's in conference. Would they trade him in conference?
Well, you got the Buffalo Bills, like you mentioned, like you predicted.
You got the Bills. You got maybe the Broncos. You got the Steelers.
The big potential possibility.
I'm just throwing teams at you. But should the Steelers trade for Cooper Kupp? At the end of the day, if they can get him cheap, I accept it. But is it a long-term solution? Obviously not. Does he come with baggage? And in terms of baggage, I mean injuries and contract. Yes, he does.
Now, here's the thing about that. As far as long-term solution goes, when it comes to Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, I don't agree with it, nor do I believe it, because they haven't showed it at all for how many years now.
Okay.
But they're always going to be in win-now mode. Even despite the situation of, the uncertainty at the quarterback position, if they're going to bring Russ back or Justin Fields back, I prefer Fields, just saying. But they're always going to be in that win-now mode.
Yeah, their thinking is, we're still competing. They're never going to tank. They're never going to be like, you know what, let's just screw this year. We're going to suck on purpose.
Let's rebuild.
They're not of that thinking.
No.
And they never will be.
No, they won't.
So in that mindset, they're going to be aggressive and go get a guy like Kupp.
Yeah.
Which is why they tried calling for him last year, and they clearly didn't get him. And now that the Rams are a lot more open and will be trading him, or most likely intending to be trading him, the Steelers will probably be calling again.
Yeah.
As long as it's cheap, I'm accepting of it. But here's the thing. I will take Cooper Kupp as long as they don't trade anything too crazy. I wouldn't trade a third, maybe a fourth. Probably a fifth and another fifth for the next 2 years. If they can accept that.
If they were to trade for Cooper Kupp and acquire him, I'd be cool with it as long as it's for a fair price and that they draft a wide receiver in the draft.
Yes. Here's my concern. Here's my thinking. Whether they get Kupp or not, this should not defer them from going out and getting a receiver in free agency or the draft or both. I would hope that they do. If, let's say they get Cooper Kupp. Let's say Cooper Kupp is traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would still hope that they go out and get a receiver in free agency and the draft. I think they got to add as many bodies to that receiving room because our depth sucked. We don't know what Pickens' future is. We don't know what Calvin's future is. They're both in contract years. Roman Wilson is in his second year next year. I mean, we don't know what his career is gonna title down with him being injured all last season and essentially redshirting. We need as many people in the receiving room as much as we can. In my opinion, the Steelers need to completely revamp that receiving room. They need to add as many figures to that room as they can, whether that is Kupp or not, making a move in free agency and the draft. I hope that if the Steelers do trade for Kupp, that doesn't make them think, hey, we're good at receiver, let's push it on the back burner. Let's not do that.
Why settle for that? Just because you finally acquired a big name wide receiver via trade and whatnot, you think that's good enough? No, it's not. No. Like, listen, you have Pickens, you have Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson all from last year. They're going to be coming and playing this year, as I am speculating. That's fine. That's fine and dandy. But you need to add more bodies. You bring in Kupp, that's a fourth body. You bring in a potential another free agent. I'm talking about a capable free agent at that. Maybe even another big name free agent at that. Not a depth guy, not a Arthur Smith folk and whatnot. No, I don't want none of them.
No, here's the thing. If they get Kupp, I don't think they go after a guy like Higgins or Godwin.
Well, you still gotta go out there and find a capable wide receiver.
I agree.
Listen, hypothetically speaking, say they get Cooper Kupp. Go out there and get Darius Slayton.
They could.
That wouldn't be a bad selection. That wouldn't be a bad option.
That'd be a lot cheaper, and he's very good depth.
Yeah. And a deep threat at that, too.
Yeah. And then you can still draft a guy, maybe most likely day 2, because the Steelers love their day 2 wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, like right there. I mean, your whole wide receiver group, is pretty much revamped. It's refreshed.
You're
it's
looking
different. It's bolstered. It's loaded.
Unless you're looking at Pickens, Kupp, free agency, a rookie, Calvin Austin, and Roman Wilson. I think that's solid. And let's say we don't get Kupp. Let's say they don't trade for Kupp and they go in free agency and still go in the draft. Your receiving room is still a lot better than it was last year.
It needs to be better than last year.
All I'm saying is if they do indeed trade for Kupp, I don't want them to think, hey, receivers fixed. Let's just go after another position like defensive line or corner or running back or whatever. Let's not push it on the back burner just because we get a guy like Kupp. Kupp is not the fix. He's not the complete fixture. He would be a nice add. He's a great veteran. He's a hell of a character. He's a leader in the locker room. When he's healthy, he'll have good production on the field if the Steelers want to use him and if they want to throw the ball, which I highly doubt. But I don't want them to just think, we got Kupp, everything's fine. That should not be the case.
No.
And that's honestly for any receiver they might trade for, unless it is a young, promising guy. Maybe like, I don't know. Maybe I'm spitballing here. Garrett Wilson. I think that'd be a phenomenal trade.
There you go.
Would they do that?
I'm waiting for Garrett Wilson to demand a trade.
I don't know.
To seek a trade.
I don't know. But I don't think Kupp would be the fix. I don't think he would be the solution because Lord knows how long he's going to be here with his age and the cap he carries and obviously the injuries. I don't think it would be the most ideal trade for the Steelers. I would much rather them go in free agency and make a legitimate splash for Higgins, for Godwin, maybe even Slayton, like you mentioned, and go in the first 2 picks and go get a wide receiver. I would much prefer that than get Kupp. But I would accept Kupp as long as they trade him for as cheap as they can and they restructure his contract.
Yeah.
I would be very accepting of that. Anything crazier, then you're kind of overpaying a little bit. And I don't know if I can support that, but if Kupp comes to the Steelers, I'm not going to hate it. It just needs to be at a reasonable price. If he does get traded, maybe Kupp doesn't get traded. Maybe he just gets cut and he gets to pick wherever else he wants to go. Ultimately, that might be the case. But the fact that the Rams are immediately exploring trade offers and the Steelers were in talks with the Rams last year makes me believe that Omar Khan will be picking up the phone if he hasn't already.
Yeah.
So the Steelers, I know it's been done to death. It's that horse has been beaten over and over and over again, but a wide receiver is in the trade market and the Steelers are a favorite, but they are. There's rumors and then there's whatever, or everyone's saying, oh, they're a favorite to land this guy and this guy. I do think that the Steelers will be a favorite to land Kupp. Do they ultimately land Kupp? I don't think so. But if they do, I don't hate it as long as it's at a reasonable offer.
And as far as the wide receiver position goes, because of, what happened last offseason and into the regular season, I mean, they completely botched the whole wide receiver
and
position.
that's on Omar Khan.
Omar Khan completely botched. I would say this is his one true L so far as Steelers GM.
Well, yeah, I would say. I mean, we'll see how the draft classes turn out with the tackles in them.
That's fair enough. But I want him to be aggressive considering what happened last year. I want him to be aggressive coming into this offseason and into the draft at fixing and revamping the wide receiver room because it's a necessity.
Oh.
Now, saying that, I don't want him to overpay as far as potentially trading for a wide receiver, Cooper Kupp in this instance, or signing a wide receiver, a big-name wide receiver at that. I don't want him to overpay just because, I fucked up last year. No.
Yeah, maybe he's panicking. Maybe he saw what he did last year and he knew he messed up, and maybe he's panicking and then overcharges or overpays.
No, go out there and do the necessary moves to revamp a wide receiver, to get a big-name wide receiver at that, because it is a necessity for the Steelers to acquire one. They need one badly.
They need more than one, but yes.
But they need to do it at the right time and the right price. They should not overpay.
I do believe Khan will be aggressive, but seeing what he did last year, I'm going to hold back a little belief that he'll actually get something done.
Yeah.
I do think they add a receiver. Who and how big of a receiver that is, I can only hope and dream. But I know Khan and everyone will be aggressive to fix receiver, and maybe that doesn't include trading for Kupp. But I'm going to hold back a little bit of belief until we actually see everything go through this time. Because I done got my hopes up twice last year.
Yeah. I know you did. I was just basically
enjoying the ride.
Yeah, I was just in boat like, all right, I'll believe it when I see it. And ultimately, I never believed it.
Yeah. So as the weeks go on and things are going to ramp up and then more news reports come out and then everything's being discussed, everything's going to amplify. Within a month and a half's time, everything's going to be different and everything's only going to get crazier when it involves just everything around the NFL, but especially when it comes to the Steelers and the trade talks or whoever they might be targeting in the free agency market, but especially at the wide receiver position. If there is one position I would hope that they immensely fix in the offseason, it is wide receiver.
They need to.
They do. And maybe that is getting a guy like Kupp. I don't think he'll be the complete fix. I don't think he's the perfect solution or any solution at that, but he would be a great ad at this stage. Just make it very reasonable.
Hell, just that character of his alone would be a great ad because the wide receiver position desperately needs it.
Well, think
The
of how
locker room
young
needs it.
think of how young our receiving room is. Pickens, who still hasn't matured, and at this point, I don't know if he ever will. Calvin Austin, who's honestly looking like more of a leader than anyone in that room, and I'm being 100% real with you.
Yeah.
Shout to Calvin. Roman Wilson coming into his second year. He's a young stud.
And he just carries that championship mentality all the way back from Michigan.
Yeah. So we could use some serious leadership, some pedigree in that locker room. Kupp would bring that. Even if he's not on the field, his impact in the locker room and off the field would have some significant impact for this team. I do believe that. So Cooper Kupp, could he become a Pittsburgh Steeler? We'll find out. But let's know your guys' thoughts. Would you trade for Cooper Kupp? What would you trade for Cooper Kupp? Would you not trade for Cooper Kupp? What are your guys' internal feelings, man? Let's know down in the comments below. What do you want the Steelers to do at the wide receiver position? Let us know all your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. We greatly appreciate you guys' feedback and your honest opinions, man. As always, and huge shout out to BetUS for sponsoring with us on this video, man. Again, go check out that 150% sign-up bonus when you sign up at BetUS.com today using the promo code YouTube150, and go check out those casino bonuses if you guys are into casinos and all that. BetUS has all that covered for you guys. So, again, huge shout out to BetUS for sponsoring with us on this video. Huge shout out to you guys for watching. Here we go, Steelers at the end of the day. And the offseason, man, the rumors are already starting, and this is just the beginning. So
Just the beginning. Lord knows what else is going to be coming about.
I can only imagine. Buckle up. Here we go, Steelers.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Peace!